What are the types of tenancy? Now that you've protected your rent, the tenants have moved in, you must be aware, okay, of the types of tenancies and the types of contract you should be using. Now, the most common types of tenancy for a family let, for a single let, is assured short hold tenancy, AST. Now, when you're renting out rooms, you're not using the generic assured short hold tenancy to get your rooms tenanted, because the generic assured short hold tenancy says that as you rent to your tenant, you're not permitted to enter the property without the landlord's permission, without the tenant's permission as the landlord. And you have to give minimum of 24 hours notice in order to enter into the property. Now, as you're not renting to a family, neither are you renting the whole house to the tenants, you must rent with a contract that prohibits that rule, all right, and that allows you to enter into the communal spaces when you so please as a landlord, because your job and your duty is to maintain the rules that apply on the HHSRS rule, or the Lagos Guidance rule, or the local authorities rule on that particular tenancy. So what type of AST should you then use to rent out your room? It should be a room-let assured short hold tenancy, which means the tenant is only renting a designated room from yourself. The communal spaces you are allowed to enter into that property without any notice. Okay, if you do choose to give them a notice, it is out of courtesy. And also, you're permitted to enter to the bathroom, the garden, even come near the property without being charged for harassment. So it's very important that you understand the importance of using the right type of contract when you're securing your rent-to-rent tenants, so that you can have access to the communal areas, because you would need to enter that property at every given point in time. So let's just say, for example, room 1 becomes empty, and you have 4 tenants. You need to give them 24 hours to come into the communal to show them the other room. How are you going to run a business? So you have to make sure you're using the right type of assured short hold tenancy contract, not just the one that you printed off the internet, but the one that probably, if you do join the mentorship program, you have access to all these documents. For those of you who might not join, you can go and grab a copy of this on Google. Again, make sure it is worded in the right way so you don't also get into trouble. Our one has been completely done by our in-house legal team. Now, you should be aware of the multiple types of options or tenancy options for tenants. Now, every single tenancy is a fixed term. So it can be fixed for 6 months, it can be fixed for 12 months, it can be fixed for 18 months, it can be fixed for 24 months. So a fixed tenancy is the best way to get your property tenanted and keep the income coming in, which means you can get a fixed term tenancy. Ideally, all our properties are tenanted as a 6-month assured short hold tenancy on the AST contract, and it's fixed for 6 months. So which means for 6 months, the tenant cannot back out. If they sign the contract and they back out, they owe us the money for the 6 months term. Now, the 6 months term, usually a tenant has the first refusal to issue you with a 1 month notice should they choose to move out before the end of the tenancy. So meaning if a tenant needs to move out of your property, they need to let you know a month before the month 6 of a 6 month tenancy agreement that they will be leaving at the end of month 6. Else, if they do not do that, they are entitled to pay that month's rent should they move out, and you can take them to court and you can get that money. Now, what if at month 5, they did not tell you anything? They did not say they want to move out, or you did not tell them that you need them to move out. The tenancy automatically go on a periodic tenancy, which means a rolling monthly tenancy. Periodic. You don't have to sign a periodic contract, but it's there as a special term that your tenancy automatically goes periodic should you not renew, or should the landlord not renew, or should you not propose any sort of rental increase and what such not. It automatically goes into a periodic tenancy. Now, the other types of tenants see here is that minimum 6 months tenancies gives the tenant the right of occupancy. So which means the tenant has a right of occupancy and he has a right of enjoyment of that property. All right. He has a right occupancy. He has a right to the occupancy of the property. And you cannot just come and say to them tomorrow, I want you out of my property tomorrow, when a tenant is on a assured short hold tenancy. You have to give them and follow the appropriate rule of eviction notices or possession notices in order for you to take over that property. Now, you can also use a license agreement should you want to rent a tenant rent to a tenant on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis, on a quarterly basis. We here at Property Wealth Education and our Property Wealth Estate sister company, we use license agreement a lot. And the reason why we use license agreement a lot, I'll give you an example. Nick would have told you at the beginning of today's session that, regardless of what happens, all our tenants pays us on the first of the month. Regardless of what happens, our tenancies pays us on the first of the month. So our rent collection date is the first. All right, we have 3 dates in the month. First, the 10th, the 15th. Those are the 3 days that first, the 10th, and the 20th. Those are the 3 days that we have in our business. The reason why we have 10th and 22nd is that we do have some council tenants who are in our properties that are on universal credit. So we made sure that we work with those 3 days. Either it comes in on the 1st, or it comes in on the 10th, or it comes on the 20th. So to allow universal credit give us those money. Now, for those who are professionals, 90% of our tenants who are professionals, 80% of our tenants who are professionals, they pay us on the 1st of every single month. Now, should a tenant move in on the 5th, all right, or should a tenant move in on the 18th, or should a tenant move in on the 12th? How do we manage to do this? So normally what we would do, if we imagine a tenant wants to move in on the 18th, so what normally we'll do, we give them a license agreement from the 18th to the 30th, so they have a license agreement, and then sign a shorter tenancy, which is a fixed term of tenancy for the next 6 months. That is exactly how we run our tenancies.